In your own viewpoint then, in terms of this canopy, what are the characteristics of XR as you understand it?
My characteristic definition of XR is as follows. What the currently amorphous entity of XR can most realistically best be developed into to make the most out of its declared purpose, vision, and principles is an umbrella canopy. To serve as a meeting journey starting place for the coming together of all who seek eco-friendly solutions more urgently, drastically, and fairly to the climate and ecological crisis of maldevelopment in order to transform the world into a better living place to safeguard all life.
Sounds quite utopian, doesn't it? I mean, like almost the XR is just providing this cover, this shelter for members of the human family. But how accurate is that? I mean, isn't it? It just sounds a bit Kumbaya-ish, to be quite honest.
Well, if we try to break down and address the key concepts, in this statement. So, for example, I say XR ought to serve as a meeting journey starting place, which is a place where we all who are concerned about the climate and ecological crisis and want to do something about it meet to start the journey. It's a place where we meet to start the journey. So we don't just meet and it ends there. We are to commence a journey. And from my Pan-African perspective on it, I would say a Sankofa Ubuntudunia safari, which is a journey that will take us back to go and look critically at the root causes of the problem, but also take the best from human experience, knowledge, and wisdom to address it in such a way that we can shed light on our present and chart a better way forward. So that is actually what XR provides us with an opportunity to do. We meet to start a journey together to explore actually all of our human history. What has brought us to this point? What have we done? What have we failed to do? But also to be able to share knowledge and experience and skills in such a way that we can build and power as well, so that we can build a capacity to address the crisis with viable solutions that ensure that we do have a present, but more importantly, there's a future for all life. That for me is the importance of that concept of a meeting journey starting place. You could also go into the issue about who is it for, right?
Yeah.
Now we're calling everybody,
Yeah.
but for me, we're clear on who is being called. You come together, those who have concern about the climate and ecological crisis, who are not in denial that there is a crisis that threatens all life, and that we are in a state of emergency, so much so that we cannot rely on the powers that be, to take their time and provide the solution, that we ourselves have something to do. Have to be proactive in being the change. So those are the people that are called forth.
Okay.
Certainly not those who are hostile to recognize and addressing the climate and ecological crisis. Those who are in denial, but also not those who may seek to take advantage of the crisis in order to further do harm to all life forms. So it is not necessarily the kind of one love kumbaya of calling everybody together that you alluded to. It is a particular group of people who are called forth to this meeting journey starting place.
Okay, so it just also breaking down some of the other things that you said when you spoke about for the coming together of all who seek eco-friendly solutions more urgently, drastically and fairly. Why only those seeking eco-friendly solutions?
Well, I've explained that there are forces. We live in the real world. And what within our African heritage community will say, the mangamizi of the climate and ecological crisis, has not happened as an accident of history. There are some people who purposely set out to go around the world and imposing against the best wisdom of the majority of humanity that we're living largely in communal formations, holding land in common, caring for each other, having systems of well-being that looked after each other, and also ensuring that they were trying to hold on to their traditions of having a more harmonious relationship with nature, with Mother Earth, who is seen as a living being. Nature itself is very much part of the life of everybody in those communities. A few people went around the world from Europe. They came to Africa, they came to the so-called Americas, Abiyala as its proper name by indigenous people, went to Asia, they went to Australia, and then imposed a reordering of society and its relationship to Mother Earth, where all their interest was extracting resources to, first of all, enrich Europe and make life better for a privileged few in Europe, slaughtered as many of the people as possible, and that is from where the ecological devastation that has resulted from those times in ecocide that people refused, the crimes of ecocide people refused to see, not just genocide of killing people, but destroying biodiversity, destroying many, many life forms, imposing a plantation economy, for example, on the Americas, which meant deforestation and destruction of many, many life forms. This is what has brought us to where we are right now in terms of the problem. So this is clearly the ecocide we experience today, the climate and ecological crisis, is a result of the profit-making activity of a small minority of people who misuse power and have brought all of us now to this brink. So clearly, I mean, we have to distinguish between those who, up till now, refuse to see that there's anything wrong with this way of misconducting themselves. We have to distinguish between them, and unfortunately they are few, even though they are powerful. And the majority of humanity, particularly those of our peoples in the global south, who have borne the brunt of this ecocide crimes against Mother Earth, who have been in resistance for hundreds of years, and who now are seeing that the prospects of larger numbers of people from Europe, from the global north, may begin to see what they saw hundreds of years ago. So clearly we have to isolate those people and not let them come into a movement like Extinction Rebellion, because if those who are in Xosei, who clearly by their words and conduct show that they are incorrigible, they completely refuse to hear, and share any concern for the climate and ecological crisis. Those people, I don't think that they should be welcome into the movement.
So who has the power to decide?
The movement itself. Those who are coming into the movement, who are building the movement, they have the power to decide. And that is why, you see, the openness of the movement. This is a movement that is not and should not, in my view, close its doors to anybody who comes knocking, regardless of who they are, including perpetrators of crimes of ecocide. If they come knocking on the door of the movement, I believe that as an umbrella canopy, it should be open to them. But you come into a movement with clearly declared vision, values, principles, ways of doing things, ways of relating to each other, ways of relating to everything on the planet. And therefore, those principles, the vision, the values should be used to determine who is in favor of building this movement in accord with that vision, values, and principles, and those who are not. Okay. And my view, which I've expressed very strongly wherever I had the opportunity to express them, within and beyond Extinction Rebellion, is you cannot have even a mass movement that has declared its vision, values, and principles, and then tolerates repeated violations, not once, not twice, but repeated, arrogant, determined violations of the vision, the values, and the principles. The movement has to build within itself ways of calling out those who repeatedly prove that they are incorrigible, and because then they come in with a different kind of agenda.
Okay. And
that is where their presence within the movement could be injurious to others and prevent us from achieving our objective. Now, I would like us to distinguish very clearly those kinds of people from those who come from all sorts of backgrounds, some of whom could have been participants in ecocide crimes for one reason or the other, sometimes through ignorance, sometimes through just selfishness, sometimes through disrespect for everybody else. Like people who think that it's just a career, it's just a job. I'm asked to go and do some mining somewhere in Africa, and if we go and we poison the water bodies, we poison the farmlands, we dispossess people, we impoverish them. That is just collateral damage. Okay, this is my job, this is my career. This is how I'm supposed to make life for myself, and that's it. That is what they've done. But then, and they were not very much aware that the sum total of those kinds of careerist pursuits would now put the entire planet and all life forms at the danger of extinction. Now whatever has happened to them, now they are waking up to this possibility. And they want to do something about it. They feel their conscience pricks them to think that if they've been part of causing the harm, and now they can see where this harm is taking the planet, then they have a responsibility to do something about it. Now, my view is that those people ought to be allowed to come into the movement, to start from what they know, to start from what they think they can begin with, and work with respect to everybody in making their contributions to the movement's attempt to mobilize people to resolve this crisis. And for me, those people be given all the freedom they need and all the support they need to start with everybody else from this meeting journey place in order to make their journey. We all move at different paces. We all learn at different paces. We all do things at different places. The cultural context, the spiritual context, the intellectual possibilities are different for all of us. So I wouldn't want anybody to be put in a situation where there is undue pressure on them to just conform to somebody else's pace of thinking and doing things. I think that is where this umbrella canopy ought to be an open school of action learning for all of us, where we share whatever knowledges and wisdoms that we have brought from our various backgrounds, particularly our various community treasure houses of knowledge, of wisdom, of tradition, of heritage, culture, of spirituality. We should be free to share it. Let millions of flowers bloom on this umbrella canopy, and through interactions with each other, learning to once again share the love that the human family ought to have for itself, amongst itself, and with the rest of nature that makes up Mother Earth. Then we can make that journey steadily. And through this relationship building, through what we call, through that journey towards Ubuntudunia, a world of Ubuntu, a world where we rediscover our common humanity through the humanity we express for each other and amongst ourselves. Through that, then we would become the change, and we would be the solution ourselves to the climate and ecological crisis. Let's understand what this toxic system has been doing to all of humanity. Right? The poisoning of minds, the menticide, that, through miseducation in schools, colleges, and universities,